Hey, welcome back to the Confidad podcast. My name's Dan Tinquist, your host. So glad that you chose to join us today. Let's begin today like we do every single episode with our fatherhood mindset. Say it out loud with me. Come on, be bold. It matters. Becoming the dad your kids need is one of the most important things that you have in front of you. So let's say it out loud together. I'm the only one who can fulfill the father role I have, so I choose to do it well. I get to show up well for my kids. Imperfection is reality. Ownership is a choice. Today is brand new, and so is tomorrow. I am wholly loved, so I will love wholly. As we talk about our equipping section today, I want us to think about like all the way to the end of our lives. I've mentioned this a few times before, but like our culture has sanitized to death, and we do not like to think about it, talk about it, face it most of the time. The most mature people that we know understand that death is indeed guaranteed, and so they consider it as a normal part of life and a normal part of their thinking. So they have that in the back of their minds, or maybe even the front of their minds, as they live each day. I would say even people that have that understanding, they're not morbid and weird. They actually probably live the fullest life because they understand the value of each day, the value of each moment of each day. So as we look to that, I want us to answer a few questions, but they're all surrounding this one thing. There is a Danish theologian and philosopher by the name of Søren Kierkegaard, who is quoted as saying this: purity of heart is to will one thing. That's kind of a deep thing. He's a philosopher, theologian, right? But the understanding is like, to have a pure heart, or better yet, let's say it this way, a pure heart is only willing one thing, only wanting one thing, only driving in one direction. And if we're talking about parenting and legacy and your family, generations to come, think about what's the one thing that the generations before you wanted you to know, wanted you to carry. What kind of legacy were they bringing to you and handing to you so that you could hand it off to your kids? Fair statement here. Just got to let you know, like, I did steal these two questions from Dave Barnes and John McLaughlin on their Dadville podcast. It's a great podcast. Go listen to it. Lots of fun. The Dadville podcast is interviews with lots of different people from lots of different walks of life, and actually a lot of musicians from Nashville, LA, all that. So it's a fun glimpse into what does it look like to be a dad while you're in the music industry. So if you're interested in that, go take a look. But they used to ask these two questions at the end of every single episode. And when the guests would hear it, that was almost like the air left the room because it came out of nowhere. And that's one reason I think it's an interesting idea to think about how many people are living lives understanding death is coming at some point, and how many people are ready to answer this question. And I'd love for you as my listeners to be ready to answer this question and be able to think about it in a way that you're not intimidated by it. You're not like feeling like it's morbid and inappropriate, but that like, no, I'm living with intention. I'm becoming the dad my kids need. And because you're on that trajectory, you're able to answer these two questions surrounding the one thing. So question number one, and you can like pause this here and think about it after I say it, or you can just listen through and afterwards write it down. Would love to hear what you have to say. Send me an email or shoot it in the comments below. But here's the first question. Ready? What's the one thing that you want your kids to know? What's the one thing that you want your kids to know, to be able to say by the end of your days when you take your last breath and your kids are knowing one thing? What is that thing? What's the one thing you want your kids to know? It's an important question, right? And lots of different people have lots of different answers. What matters is you understanding, what are you living for to pass on? What are you living to pass on to your kids? And here's the other thing. The first question is more about like, what are they carrying forward? The second question has more to do with us. So here's the second question. What is the one thing you hope your kids say about you at your funeral? You're not going to be there, right? You're not listening. You're gone. But what is the one thing you hope they are talking about when the family is gathered and they're celebrating your life and grieving your loss? What is the one thing you want your kids to say about you? What do you hope they say about you? What they say about you, you actually have a lot of control over now. You don't get to control the words that come out of their mouth, but you do get to control the life that you live between now and then and how you show up for your kids. And the way that you show up for your kids will determine how they speak about you when you're gone. So, those are the two questions. I'll let you answer them however you feel led or driven or passionate about. Obviously, I can't control how you answer those questions. But as I equip you today, I want you to think about this. Are the answers to those questions aligned with the life that you're living? Will the life that you're living, the trajectory of your life currently, nothing else changes, will you confidently say, yes, these things will be said about me, and my kids will know these things when I'm gone? Are you sure that your trajectory will achieve that? Now, no guarantees in life. We're not even guaranteed our next breath, okay? So I'm not sitting here saying you have control over that, but you do have control between now and your death, how you spend your time, how you show up for your kids. And you better believe that when you show up for your kids and how you show up for your kids determines how they answer these questions. Hope and good intentions and all of that is a great thing only when it's followed by action. The way that you're showing up day in, day out, what you're carrying home from work, what you're carrying emotionally, spiritually, relationally with your kids, it matters. I know so many parents who are stressed, burned out, frustrated, feel like they just have to keep grinding to build up the nest egg and to build up their legacy and to build up their retirement accounts. And I'm telling you, your kids don't want your money. They want you. Money's great. It's a fantastic tool. But if you are a slave to it and there's never, ever, ever enough to satisfy, whether it's things or money or status, your kids are going to suffer for that. I want you to think about that question today too. Is the trajectory of your life aimed in such a way that when you die, your kids will know the one thing that you're hoping they know, and that they will say the one thing about you that you're hoping they'll say about you at your funeral? Deep questions, good questions. Wrestle with them and sit with them long enough until you have a greater understanding of what is the gap. Maybe you're living great and you're showing up amazingly for your kids. You have emotional regulation down. You have emotional intelligence and vocabulary. You know what it means to do that, to show up well for your kids, to create non-judgmental listening space for your kids, to not give them unsolicited advice, to create a space for them to grow and become the people they're meant to become. Awesome. If that gap between the trajectory that you're living now and where you hope to be is small, fantastic. So glad that that is for you. If it's not, if the gap between the trajectory where you're headed now but where you want to be is wide and you don't know how to tick it up, you don't know how to move it in the right direction and move the needle, let me help you. I would love to have an opportunity to welcome you into our community and help you start take that trajectory up little by little, 1% marginal improvement every single day, so that tomorrow you can say, I'm showing up more as the dad that my kids need today than I did yesterday. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next episode.